Drop the mic. We're here. Tom, Dave, Tim. It's NFL Week 2 Thursday Night Football with a big AFC East matchup down in Miami. As always, today's podcast is presented by Props.Cash. We've teamed up with Props.Cash once again this season because, like I always say, we 100% could not do what we do without Props.Cash. So if you think you're ready to level up your prop betting game, use code PTM at sign up to get 25% off your first month. Also, want to shout out the PTM Discord where you can get all of our picks. You can join us today using the same PTM discount code for 25% off. What's up, boys? You ready for week 2?
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Me too.
Week 1 was kind of like a tale of two stories. We did really well on the non-Sunday picks. Thursday night football was good. Friday night football was good. Monday night football was good, which we'll talk about in a second because I know Tim's very excited about some of the wins there. Sunday was a bummer, man. Like we had a bunch of picks that were like close to cashing, and then like Bryce Young fell by one pass attempt. Jalen, what's his name? From the Steelers, he missed by one receiving yard. It was just like it's like one of those days. But I looked back to last year, and we actually started out -4 units. I think -4 and change units the first week, which makes sense. You don't have a lot of great data week 1, and we went on to go 100+ units on the season. So I'm thinking this is the start of something special this week. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, agreed. Let's once we get a little bit of that data. I love my ESPN, the offensive line, defensive line, pass and rush win rates. I love diving into some of that. I think there's some nice little matchup discrepancies you can find there. So just love starting to collect all that data and to read into it. I just wanted to point out the chats are open, whether you're watching us on YouTube or X, wherever you are. You want to drop a comment, a question, we'll bring it up on the show. We can pull up Props.Cash. We can see what we think about any of the questions there. So the lines are open.
Real quick, to talk about the slow start, I was looking through our sheet because we track everything, which I think is very important. I saw a lot of drama on Twitter. I try to stay away from the Capper. We're just giving you data, trying to get you wins. But there was like, you don't track or whatever. We do all of that in here, and when we're down, we don't hide it. When we're up, we do, or we don't. But since I joined you guys in April, 1 month I started hot, and that was June. And that month I ended up down a half a unit on the month. Every other unit, I think I've been up +20 or more, and I've started with losses. So it feels like if we can get the it seems like a trend is all I'm saying. We started slow and then we build back. I did want to get sneak some stuff in there. Like we did the touchdown parlays because like for week 1, you're going to your stars. CeeDee Lamb was the only game that we missed on that massive one we talked about offline. We picked one from each game. But yeah, I feel like we got the stuff out of the way. The weird thing with Christian McCaffrey the first game, and then we got HN. Hopefully that doesn't happen again, but it feels like he's going to play. So feels like we got the rust off or whatever, That's what they like to say about the Deshaun Watsons of the league.
I think you should just take the first week off of every month based on what I just
I'm considering
heard.
it.
What do you think?
I'll just say what I think I would have played, or like maybe put like $1 on it, and then just kind of trick the gods. I was not incorrect, however, though this week about I got a gloat about our honorary tight end, our wide receiver 1, Kyle Juszczyk, who not only covered his 4.5 yards, but he had a 35-yard absolute stud of a grab. So if you followed us there, that was a very easy cash. And then our 25s hit the 25. Took a little longer. Took to like the first play of the fourth quarter because Ayuk dropped like 2 touchdowns and a couple other ones. Yeah. But I did win my fantasy matchup. He did not score more than 18 fantasy points. So all in all, I think that game was a really good ending. Nice cap, even though the Christian McCaffrey shit.
That's the stars aligning, man. If you can win your fantasy week and get your contradicting bets to also cash.
Yeah.
Really
well done.
We middled that one. So I felt good. Felt really good.
Absolutely. And Tom, your thoughts on the Jets after a week of Aaron Rodgers back at the helm?
Hey, he stayed healthy, man. But that's about all we can say. It was they looked like two teams playing in two different leagues. I don't know. It was not an easy watch. I'll say that.
Yeah.
How about them pulling Aaron Rodgers short of 175, like 8 yards short, and then
Yep.
going for a long touchdown
Mm.
drive? I was like, garbage yards will be fine. That was the only
No.
bet for me that went the wrong way, was
Yeah.
little A-Rod. That hurt.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into the Thursday night game. We like to do this on Wednesdays just so we can get a little bit more value. Certainly not all the lines are out, but most of them are out. So we're going to dive into Bills at the Dolphins. What a great Thursday night. I remember some Thursday night games last year that were like, I don't know, the Bears versus the Commanders. Like, it was just rough to watch. This has got to be one of the better ones. Both teams are starting with a victory. The Bills started out slow last week, eventually came back and beat Arizona pretty handily. And then the Dolphins took care of Jacksonville pretty well also. Dolphins are -2.5 in this game. Total is 48.5. Tom, what are your initial thoughts on this game, the two teams, how they match up?
All right. So if we look into some of, like I mentioned, some of these pass block and run stop win rates, there's only so much we can read into it after 1 week. It's a lot of that is the product of the team you were playing. If they're really good, you're going to be bad because they're just like, if your pass block win rate was 85%, that means the other team was 15%. That's just how it works. They have to add up to 100 there. So they become a little bit more valuable as we get a couple weeks in. But needless to say, Buffalo, interestingly, had the #1 pass block win rate in week 1. Their offensive line won the battle in the trenches 88% of the time. So there's a nice little mismatch here with Miami, whose pass rush win rate was 19th overall. That was a 38% win rate. So big discrepancy there. So maybe we look into some passing for Buffalo, whether that's, on the quarterback side, or Buffalo can be a little tricky now with a whole bunch of receivers. They're kind of sorting out now that Gabe Davis and Diggs left. The receiving room looks a little bit different there. So they're still kind of working that out. Some of the other matchups we can look at, Miami, on the other hand, also had a nice passing game here. They were number 6 in pass block win rate in week 1, and the Buffalo pass rush was 18th. So again, pretty similar matchups there. So I think we can look at the passing games for both teams here. What I did find very interesting was that the run game. So Miami, whose running backs, Achane, was awesome again. I think Mostert's out. Achane got hurt a little bit, but it seems like he's going to play. They are great. They were number 2 in run block win rate, but Buffalo was number 2 in run stop win rate. So I'm a little hesitant to especially with Achane maybe nursing a little injury there. The running game doesn't look great on the Miami side, if you're just looking at these ESPN win rates here. But on the Buffalo side, it looks pretty good. Buffalo had the number 5 run block win rate, 77%, whereas Miami's run stop win rate was number 13. So a little mismatch there. That's where I'm at so far. Want to jump into a pick, or do you guys have anything else to add?
No, I think we're ready to give out some picks.
I have a question before you give picks.
Yes.
Because what you're talking about, this is a great correlation to last time. We were on one of the big picks from the first show was Josh Allen rushing attempts. We talked about the switching of the offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got that 6.5 early, which is great. That's why we do the shows early. Closed at like 8.5, went to 9. It's 9.5 now. Do we think that the Bills opposite, you're talking about the Miami running game, are the Bills going to pound the ball like they did? Or are you fearful that with that lack of running game that they're going to air it out and it's going to be a passing game? You know what I'm saying? Like game script, how far do you think that affects the Bills game script? I'm not touching Josh Allen attempts yet, but I'm looking at receptions for him to his, like, is he going to dump it off, or is he just going to tuck it and run like we saw week 1 I guess.
We saw that in week 1. We also saw that the last time he played Miami. I think he had 15 rush attempts in that game. Is what I saw. So yeah, I could see that. You know, a high leverage game like this. You know, division opponent. Yeah, I could definitely see Allen's rushing attempts staying up and maybe an over on that one. But I don't know. I'm feeling more passing in this
That was a
game. You
playoff.
know,
That was a January playoff game where Josh Allen runs. His other head-to-heads, you know, he had 4, 4, 8, 8, and 10. That's
Yeah.
kind of
yeah,
like I'm curious about that. But if I agree with you, what I'm looking at is receptions, and I'm looking at short receptions out of him. James Cook's been catching the ball a
Yep.
ton.
Yep.
Obviously, head-to-head doesn't look great, but look at his last few. Him with 2, and then I'm hearing all of this love for Keon Coleman. So my first look was like a 2-2 receptions or a 2-3 with Cook and him. Am I crazy looking that way, or what do you guys think? If you get a 2-3, so if you took James Cook 2 receptions, Keon Coleman 3, so you're 1 under each. Alts, you're about 120 ish, minus 120.
I
He
like
only has
that.
1 game. Yeah, that's kind of where that's where I started, was just receptions. Obviously, we've had a lot of success with the running backs. Unfortunately, Saquon was one of them, but he made us a lot of money, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously there's not a lot of data for Coleman. We'll talk about Coleman a bit more in a few minutes. But for Cook, we can take a look not just at last week, but we can take a look at his last 10 games or something like that. And we can look at his receptions. Yeah, I mean, I actually think he's going to get 3 receptions in this game. It'll be tight, but I do like the idea of taking him down to 2.
His
I
2
think-
is currently at minus 330, so it's not a massive, like a 900 builder leg or anything. I feel like it's a little sneaky, you know. 2 330s and you got a solid straight.
When I
Keon
when I
Coleman
see
for 2+
something
is
with a
900.
80% hit rate that's at minus 300, then I get pretty excited.
Yeah,
That's-
I get scared. I see that's the difference between us. I'm like, what am I missing? It's too good to be true.
No, I mean it's
but
just,
yeah, so
it's just a different team, but I think he's going to be probably used heavily as a receiver this year. You know, relative to maybe what he did last year. I think he's going to be a good receiving option for Allen this year. So I think it's a good
I
look,
think
especially at 2.
yeah, I think they're coming. I think they're coming in this game. It's gonna be a shootout. I mean, the 48.5 total already tells you these two teams love to score, and whenever Tyreek is on the field, you know, it's gonna be electric.
I always worry about, you know, saying a Thursday night game is going to be a shootout because they seem like they never are. So that's my
I'm
one
keeping hope.
caution here. Yeah, I know. I always go into them hopeful, and then I feel like we're always like, you know, licking our wounds after these
Yep.
Thursday games. It's like, why do we pick all these overs in a Thursday night game again? You know?
Yeah, but so far this season, the 3 like primetime games have all been actually the 4 primetime games have all been really, you know, high offense, right? The Chiefs, Ravens, Packers, Eagles, then we had the Rams and the Lions, and then we had the Monday night game, right? So
But now we
been-
got teams on short rest.
Ooh.
That's the
Yeah.
big difference now. Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Instead of moving on, can I ask you one more question? Sorry, I know I went out of order, but I think I found my favorite play. There's a 50% boost. If we take Coleman down to 2, James Cook 2, is Kincaid going to bounce back? His line's 4.5. He's been a target monster. He only had 1 reception. Can the tight ends come back, and can he give us 3 receptions? If we get that, we're at a plus money 2, 2, 3 reception builder there. That's I need you to talk me off of this one, or we're going to run this like the 25-25. It has the same feeling of that one.
Yeah, so let's talk about snaps to answer that question. Tom and I were talking about this before, because first of all you look at the offense for Buffalo from a passing standpoint. You will look at week 1 and be totally turned off. Josh Allen only attempted 23 passing attempts, right? That's not Josh Allen, right? I don't think that's what's going to happen, especially in this like back and forth game with Tua. I think he's going to be up in the 30s. So that immediately opens up the opportunity for another 7 pass attempts, right? Target wise, Keon Coleman led the team with 5 targets. And then you got guys like Dalton Kincaid, who actually led the entire receiving core in snap share, right? So obviously tight ends are generally out there, not just for catching, but for blocking. But Kincaid was out there for 84% of snaps. Dawson Knox, who had the more productive offensive game, actually was only out there for 58% of snaps. So with the limited data on receiving yards, catches, things like that, sometimes you got to look at like the next level of data, which is who is actually on the field. So I do believe in a higher scoring game, a higher throwing game, as Tom was saying. I do think Kincaid is definitely getting 2 catches in this game. Probably a good look for his overall receiving line. His reception line is 4.5. You're just looking for 2. So
Yeah.
I think
Three out of him, 2.5.
Oh, 2.5. Okay, 3 for him. Yeah, I still think 3 is good for him. What do you think, Tom?
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was out there 85% of the time. The only thing I will note, the difference between him and a guy like Keon Coleman, who was out there 73% of the snaps, big difference in their target percentage. So Coleman, when he was out there, was targeted 11% of the time. Kincaid was only targeted 4% of the time. But as a tight end, like you said, go ahead, Tim.
It felt like more of a outlier than a trend, is what I'm saying. So I'm hoping that we're getting a little discount on that line.
Yeah.
4.5 is plus money on some books, or even it's 5.5 on Fanatics. That's wild. But a 3 to 4 reception bounce back feels more in line with him. And I think they realize the need to turn it up. But yeah, Dawson Knox did have a more productive at 2 receptions. Cool. I think I'm going to run that. I think that's my thing, is the either 2-3-3 or 2-2-3 with Cook, Kincaid, and Keon Coleman. I think that's where I'm looking at for the Bills.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Some serious alliteration going on there.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's what I like to do. Yeah.
Alliterate.
And if you get the boost, it's plus 124.
I like that play a lot, Tim.
Yeah.
So let's finish talking about the receiving core. So Tom mentioned Coleman had, as a rookie, had 73% was out there for 73% of the snaps. The next wide receiver behind him was Hollins at 58%, Shakir at 53%, and Samuel at 27%. So the rookie was out there for by far the most plays. Let's just put his play out there right now. Keon Coleman, where do we get him? 42.5.
Yep. Minus 113.
Receiving yards, minus 113 on FanDuel, minus 115 on DraftKings. Limited data, but he had 51 yards against Arizona. And I think this is a good spot for him. Again, led the team in targets. I think he's good for, they have him, targeted for 4 receptions. I think he's good for a deep one and a couple small ones. I think he gets the 43 plus yards. Plus, he went to just coming from Florida State, so we like the narrative as well of him coming to Miami to play. I'm sure that it gets the juices flowing a little bit as well. So I think this is a good spot for Keon Coleman, who's really is probably the best receiver that Allen has to go to at this point.
Yeah, that's the other upside to. I know there's 2 tight ends, but you're looking at Shakir, Curtis Samuel, which had just no production, or Keon Coleman as the wideouts. So I'm hoping that the running back dump offs and the tight ends get utilized a lot more in that passing game. They don't have a lot of names in the receiver room currently, at least from last year.
And then the other name that I mentioned was Mac Hollins. Tom and I were chatting about Hollins before we jumped on. We both think he's a sneaky play here. Tom, what were some of the thoughts or observations that you had on Hollins?
So he's been a bit of a journeyman, drafted by the Eagles. He's played in Vegas. He's played in Atlanta, but he did play 2 seasons in Miami. Not only did he play 2 seasons in Miami, in 2021, he was a team captain for the Dolphins. So this is a guy who's got, probably of all the teams he's played for, this is probably his biggest connection, the team he feels like that he was the biggest part of. So now he gets to go back to Miami, playing for this Bills team. And just, we love these sneaky little narrative spots. And I see a bunch of green bars up there at a nice line of 19.5 receiving yards. I think this is a sneaky little spot for him. I didn't write down what his snap percentage was.
His snap percentage was the second highest of all the wide receivers. So
there you go.
He came in at 58% behind Coleman at 73%. So that's pretty telling right there. I think if you look kind of historically at his games when he was 50+%, he's got a pretty good track record. And if I recall, he's got some deep ball capability as well, right? So he's got a bunch of 14+ yarders in there. So maybe even the longest reception could be a good look as well. But yeah, narrative and the other thing is just like options, right? Like he's the number 2 option on the receiving core at this point, it seems like. So
yeah, 2 or 3, yeah.
So let's go that way. All right.
I like it.
The line also opened at 17.5. So if that's any indication of which way it's moving, it's already up to 19.5. So I would lock it in there before it goes up any higher.
Yes, sir.
All right. Tom, what else you got on the Bills side?
So on the Bills side, a couple of his. I think I like James Cook here, both in terms of rush yards and rush attempts against Jacksonville just last week. You had 2 Jacksonville running backs combined for 117 rush yards on 24 rush attempts, between Travis Etienne and what's this other guy? Bagsby, whatever is.
We're pros.
Bagsby.
Bigsby. Tank. His name's Tank, right?
No, not Tank. Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on.
Hold
on.
No, 2 tanks.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby ran for 73 yards on a line of 15.5. Yeah,
that's a fucking name right there. If he
Tank
doesn't run
Bigsby,
that much,
gotta love that, man.
Gotta change the name. That's a great name.
Bagsby.
I'm gonna be betting on him strictly based on his name.
I think both are pretty good. We were on Cook's rush attempts at 13.5. Last game he crushed that. I think he had 19. Yep. He's cleared 14.5 rush attempts in 8 of his last 10 games, averaging 17.2 per game. You see one of those was against Miami where he didn't clear. He had 13. But like we just mentioned earlier, that was Josh Allen, running for 15 attempts in that game. So it took away some of the running game from him. I don't think early in the season like this, you'll see as many from Allen. So I think he should have no problem getting to those over 14.5 rush attempts. And then I think, just based on what we saw the Jacksonville running backs do against Miami last week, I mentioned early on that this was a good matchup. If you look at, the offensive line, defensive line, win rate stuff. So I think Cook over 61.5 rush yards is also a place I'm going.
I've been looking at his 40 a lot for these.
Yeah,
there's a no sweat.
40 is great. I was looking at 40 with like Allen, 200. We're working up some little builder like that. I love 40 for him.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I mean, the impressive part is Buffalo was falling behind in that game, and they really didn't stop running the ball.
Yeah,
right? They didn't really catch up. I believe they took their first lead like right before halftime. But the entire first half, if you look at James Cook, he had 8 rushing attempts in the first half alone, right? So they seem very committed to running the ball. Again, I don't think he's going to get 19 rush attempts again. I think, Allen's certainly going to be throwing the ball a bit more than he did last time. But 15 rush attempts seems like a good number. And they're going to want to keep Miami off the field. Obviously that's a way to play defensively against them as well. So I think managing the clock with Cook is going to be a strategy that Buffalo deploys as well.
Yeah. And then my other one on the Buffalo side. So I just love, if this holds and Buffalo maintains this great pass block win rate, number 1 overall in week 1, like I mentioned, because there's so many receivers, we don't know exactly. We're talking about Coleman, Kincaid, we're talking about Hollins. Maybe instead of trying to figure out who's going to have the big game for them. Let's just go with the guy who like has some great pass blocking in front of him and who's going to be throwing the ball, and Josh Allen. I like his passing yards, 245.5, minus 113 on FanDuel. I just look at his last 6 games against Miami. He's cleared this in 6 straight against Miami, 5 straight with 300 plus passing yards. His last 2 games in Miami, 359 and 400 passing yards. His last 2 games in Miami. I think this is based on what we saw in week 1 from his offensive line, being able to protect him and give him time to throw the ball. I think this is a great spot for Allen.
Yeah. It's interesting. I went before we went live, I went and added up all of the receivers for Buffalo that have a receiving prop. And if you total them all up, it comes out to like about 190 receiving yards.
Wow.
which implies somebody's right. It doesn't include
gonna go
all
off?
of their receivers. There are, I think there's I forgot who the other receiver that they have is.
That's interesting, Dave.
But you got like an extra 50 yards just on the table. So somebody's going to exceed their line by a lot. If you believe Allen's getting 250 today or
Yeah.
Thursday.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue. I do have another way, Tom, I think that you might love to play this.
Okay.
That gives you a lot more flexibility. So FanDuel has like all these specialty props. I love looking at them. I don't really play them too often, but they are fun to just think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly usually avoid all the ones that are higher than plus 200 because they're generally just traps to take your money. But the ones that are in like the minus 120 to plus 200 range, you can find some value there. This one I thought was pretty valuable. Josh Allen plus Tua, 550 plus passing yards was plus 150. So if you think about it, one of these guys is probably going to throw for 300 yards in this game, right?
Yeah.
I think they both do.
And the other one might throw for 250. So to get to 550 with the flexibility of having both of them, I kind of like the value of that at plus 150. What do you guys think?
like that a lot, Dave. You can you know where my head's at. That's a nice one. Yeah. I love this. I love how you added up all the receiver yardage props. So just looking real quick here. So Kincaid's line is 43.5. Last time he played Miami, he had 84 receiving yards. You can get him at 80 plus receiving yards for plus 480. Maybe he's the guy that goes off and fills in that 50-yard gap there. We don't have any historicals to go off on Keon Coleman, but I don't know. Based on what Kincaid did last time against Miami in Miami, maybe he's the one.
Somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
The math ain't mathing, as Tim likes to say.
Dude, the math. I hate it when math doesn't math.
All right, Tim, you got anything else for Buffalo?
Yeah, well, it's against Buffalo. Here, you know what? Let me run into it. Over 1.5. I love that we had Read the Green on, and he's been betting the soccer picks, which is coming back. Sorry for the big drought, but we've been hitting 1.5 field goals made, and people have been hammering the over. We've been joking about laddering because the 6 field goals. Here's a spot though, and I feel badly for you, RTG, but it's not looking good for our boy Jason Sanders. I'm against Buffalo. Jason Sanders has faced them twice last year. Not only did he not make a field goal, didn't even attempt one. So I'm curious if you guys think how much of these returning teams can we go off of, and is hammering his under 1.5 field goals? Because either way, a shootout, they maybe go for 2. It's a high offense, and if it's running out the clock, right, there's less attempts, less chances, maybe going for it on 4th to try to keep the kickers off the field. Two games the season prior, he went 3 both games. 2023, 1 regular season, 1 playoff game. Didn't even attempt a field goal. So I think I'm looking for like my sneaky Kyle Juszczyk style thing. That wouldn't be a 1-play cash. I have one other option for that I think is going to be that. But what do you guys think about a under 1.5? Do we not do unders, or do we? You know what I mean? Should we kicked off the show?
I
hate
1.5 is scary.
Yeah.
Well, that means he can make 1. He can even attempt 2 and miss 1. There's a lot of variant there, or room for error. it's not a smack by any means. It's just when I was looking, if you look at the data on his, because props.cash being the best, they have the field goals. Tyler Bass, both of them are 1.5 juiced to the under. And it feels like it could maybe not be a field goal game. That's all. That just, we don't need to go into it, but just maybe keep that in mind. Maybe with if you took both of them under 1.5 field goals for the no sweat, probably like plus 300 ish.
Yeah. I'm not hating it, but it kind of it does kind of go in the opposite direction of the Thursday night football narrative, which was, you know, a ton of field goals. But this, I don't know. As soon as I just heard the matchup was Miami Buffalo, I just thought like shootout. Like
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if that's the case, then you may not have a lot of field goals. You might have a lot of touchdowns. So that's what
Again,
we're
I'm
hoping
not
for.
smacking it. It's definitely not the thing. It's just something as I was looking through charts before we got on, I was like, interesting, because I would expect them to be attempting a lot. You didn't even attempt one.
Yeah.
I do have my Kyle Juszczyk for week 2 though. Is it time to go into that, or should I save that?
Go for it.
All right, hear me out. We're going back to rush yards, and we're looking at a quarterback, which we should have done in Brock Purdy. Remember on the show? Look at Tua last 4 games. His head-to-head, he's gone for 7-3 straight, 7 yards against Buffalo. But look at the last 4 games that he's done. He's starting to look like, is he healthy? Is he running again? We got 14, 7, 25, and 11 yards. And then his line is 4.5. So if you go to head-to-head, last 5, he's 4 for 5 with negative against Dallas. That goes all the way back to 23. Head-to-head, the last 3, he went for 7 yards, and then he had 1 out of 4 to 5 with 10 yards. The line's 4.5. I think we found the 1 carry, hopefully a shootout. There's no kneel downs, and I think we could cash this pretty early on without a lot of sweat.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
That's my Kyle Juszczyk. I'm gonna put that on Twitter. Try to keep those low numbers, because Juszczyk was 4.5 as well. So there's a little bit of correlation there.
Yeah, I mean the beauty of those bets is the game can be out of hand and the game can be over, and you still have a shot because you just need 1 play.
Yeah.
So
Brock
yeah,
Purdy covered his whole thing in one scramble.
yeah, he did. It was like a 10-yard run.
That
Yeah,
hurt.
I like it. I think Tua, like you said, I've noticed that as well. Like they definitely were very hesitant last season. If you look at his last 20 games,
Yeah.
obviously putting him out, exposing him for a concussion or whatever. But once playoff time came around, or you know, the end of the season came around, they were trying to clinch the seed and then ultimately the
This
playoffs.
definitely has playoff implications. It's a, you know what I mean, it's a playoff in the second week. And hear me out, no Mostert. No run blocking off of the pass catching back. Achane is potentially banged up. If he doesn't go, you now have a third Jeff Wilson, right? Blocking.
Mhm. Yep.
Or you have a banged up Achane who's maybe not trying to lower his shoulder into a 360-pound Goliath coming to kill him. So does he run for his life a little bit more? I think it's sneaky. I'm gonna smack that one
Maybe.
and pray.
Let me just ask you this, just to play devil's advocate. Do you think Miami wins the game?
Do I think Miami wins the game? I feel like the Bills are going to win this game, but I could see a scenario where Miami is in the lead in the kneel downs. I'm
Yeah,
hoping that it's
That's my
so here's
question
here's
that-
the way that I lose this bet. He scrambles for 5 yards. Josh Allen gets the ball, 2 minutes left, throws an interception. He comes out, kneels down twice, goes under. That's the way that's the only way I lose this bet.
the only way. Wow. I mean, he ran for 11 yards last week, so
I think he scrambles once and
he
we're
had
good.
enough
He just
enough buffer for multiple kneel downs. So
and I'll
All
keep
right,
an eye.
let's
Maybe that moves with the next 24 hours.
let's continue with Miami. I do like that look. I'm gonna lock that one in as soon as we get off. Tom, anything else on the Miami side that you like here?
I like Tyreek, 80 plus receiving yards, minus 200 on FanDuel. So it's a nice leg to builder. He's done it in 8 of his last 9 home games since the start of last season. And the one, the one game was against Buffalo, I think, where he had that 82. If you look at just home games, He's been pretty awesome. Click on last 10. That'll get you to just since last season with healthy Tua and
Right.
whatnot. So I think that's nice. I think putting it, obviously, you obviously want something else to put that with. I think an anytime touchdown for Tyreek at -130 on FanDuel is also nice. You can see at home what he's done. 7 of his last 9. You could put those together for +120 if you wanted to get 80 yards and a touchdown. Seems pretty money for Tyreek. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I'd mess with the yards.
With the yards, just take the -130.
Yeah, if you like his touchdown, I would just play. You can get it for -120 on DraftKings. It's, you look all over the place. It's at -150 on Caesars. So
Yeah.
I think that is going to be probably a highly bet.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my
prop,
only fear is prime time, whatever donkey money or whatever. Do they call in and the books say, hey, don't let him get in, kind of like Christian McCaffrey. But if you're going to play the Tyreek touchdown, you got to take the Josh Allen anytime and put them together because those two are just on absolute. They're just touchdown monsters. I think Josh Allen scored in 9 of the last 10, 4 or 5 of those, half of those games being 2 touchdowns. It's absolutely insane. I had him 2 touchdowns week 1, but I was too scared to tweet it out because I didn't want to look like a dipshit. And I paid the price on that one. But look at Josh Allen's anytime.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, and that's even better odds.
You have home on there, Dave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just any. Gets even more. Yeah, it doesn't matter where he plays. He's pounding one in. So I think him and Tyreek together would be.
That's nice.
I don't know if you get over 400 on that for the sweat free, but those could be 2 very short odd, high probability things to add to a no sweat. Yeah, you get +238 if you put the 2 together.
Yeah, I like that.
And if you go 2 each, just out of curiosity, gets a little bit +2,800. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think Tyreek can get in the end zone, especially with this game being at home. If this was in Buffalo, I would say no way. Not no way. He's Tyreek Hill. He can certainly score anywhere. But yeah, I kind of also feel like this has the potential to be a little bit of like a letdown game for Tyreek coming off of all the drama of week 1, the arrest, and then followed that up with a monster touchdown and everything. So I was looking at Jalen Waddle this game. I was kind of impressed with him last game. He actually led the team in snaps, slightly higher snap percentage compared to Tyreek. Monster game, 109 receiving yards, and he did it on 5 catches. Very efficient. He only had 5 targets, so caught everything. There's the snap percentage at 72% of the snaps. What do you guys think about Waddle this week? Not for the receptions, but for the receiving yards at 63.5, or get it as low as 62.5 on Caesars.
Yeah, I like it. I love how concentrated their receiving game is, right? Like you look at that list over there, compare Buffalo, there's only props out, on the Miami receiving side for Hill and Waddle, whereas Buffalo's got 6 or 7 guys there. So there's not a lot of depth to the Miami receiving core, so it's going to go to Hill and Waddle. I was liking Waddle last week. He finished with 109. I think this is another good spot. Like I said, the passing games for both teams based on the line play are the way to go. So I like both of these.
Yeah. Tim, any thoughts on Waddle in this one?
I was kind of liking the receptions a little bit more, but you make a great case for the yardage.
Yeah.
The only thing is the head-to-head last 2 times he went for, again, it's different teams. Same as the kicking in 22, he went way off, over 100 both games, 44 and 46 last year. So that regression, I mean, if it's a shootout, he hits it easy, I think.
Yeah.
They got to double team Tyreek. And he's clearly the number 2.
And the other, yeah, he definitely is the number 2. The other way, you can approach this, Tom did this for the Jets game. You can, with Breece Hall, you could take Waddle instead of 4.5 receptions. You could take him for 4 receptions, which is kind of his sweet spot. If you
Mhm.
look, like he gets to 4 quite a bit, especially in the prior matchups versus Buffalo. And then you compare it with a lower receiving yards number. So if you don't want to play the full 62.5, you can take him down to probably 50 something
40.
and still get a
Oh yeah,
still
get a
get
decent one.
a good bet there. So that would be my preference. Would be Tyreek touchdown, Waddle receiving yards. I think those are both nice plays in this game.
Yeah, Chi-Town Kick says he always worries about the alert that Waddle's heading to the medical tent. Yeah, I that is always a concern with playing a
Debo
Jalen
Smith,
Waddle.
he's
Yeah.
their Debo.
Yeah.
Every play, you're like, please come back. If Debo Smith's broken every play, and then fine the next.
Yeah.
It makes for a lot of excitement when they emerge out of the medical tent and come back on the field.
Yeah.
Only
I
to
just- I
not
don't-
catch another catch the rest. Of the
Yeah,
game.
right. I don't need
What else?
like that.
Anything else in this Miami game? Not a lot more props on the Miami
Yeah,
side.
they're gonna have to. I think they're waiting on those inactives. I think
We had a
they'll announce them
question from
earlier tomorrow.
Jabari on YouTube here asking about Tua passing yards under.
Ooh.
Don't know. I mean, we've been talking about potential shootout, although we're going to eat those words when we realize this was, we remember this was
Hopefully
a
not.
Thursday night game come Friday. But I don't know. It just seems like, I think that was his same line in week 1, 267. He blew that away for 338. I don't know. I'm not feeling the under here. But what about you guys?
Yeah, the line feels high.
It does. It does
Against
feel a little high.
Jacksonville,
Yeah.
it felt good. Against Buffalo, who's a pretty legit defense. Buffalo gave up, what did they give up? Like 150 passing yards or something like that to Kyler Murray, who's not equivalent to
If
Tua.
I were to dabble into
Jordan
Tua's
says to look
passing
at him in
yards-
prime time. Sorry, Tim.
No, you're good. I was saying I looked at his yards and I said if I were to fuck with it at all, it would have been 200 plus, and he has 199 in there. But yeah, look at this. Look at that. That's not great for that line. So yeah, man, fucking listen to your heart. Go for it. That's what I tell people to do.
I agree. If I were to lean one way, I wouldn't play the under, but if I were to lean one way, I'd probably say under. But I definitely was looking to put him for 200 plus as part of a builder. I think that's probably the best way to play him.
Yeah. Head to head against Buffalo as well.
Yeah, not a good track record against
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Other than that one game. All right. Anything else?
I think that's it, boys.
We'll put everything in the Discord, and then tomorrow I'll dive into more. Obviously, I think I just locked in the perfect sweat free at plus 699. So I'll give that out
Beautiful
tomorrow.
thing.
Very, very excited for that.
All right. Join that Discord. We're having a lot of fun there. Crushing some WNBA as that season ends, and
You guys went perfect yesterday. 4 for
baseball
4.
is picking back up, and obviously we got lots of football to come. So come on in.
That's it. All right. Nice. Second Thursday night football of the season in the books. Thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate the comments here. And let's lock in these bets, get them in nice and early before those lines start to move up. And let's all make some money tomorrow night.
Hell yeah. See you guys.